Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Doing Justice Brings Joy. Um, I'm very sad to report to you right now that the Supreme Court has just ended humanitarian, the TPS program. They call it temporary parole for 500,000 people from 4 countries. And what they did was they lifted the temporary restraining order, but they haven't actually ruled on the case. But this allows the administration to start deporting people right away. Um, and, and it's possible that the Supreme Court will rule that what was done is illegal. But by that time, up to 500,000 people will be made into illegal aliens who had legal protections and legal rights. And this order could expose nearly 1 million people to deportation, to being grabbed off the streets, pulled out of cars at the gas station, snatched in front of their children's schools. It's just outrageous. Within the last hour, the Supreme Court cleared the way for the Trump administration to strip temporary legal protections from nearly 1 million people. The justices lifted a court order that kept humanitarian parole protections in place for more than 500,000 migrants from 4 countries. Cuba, I'm not even going to talk about how the Cubans who had the ability to protect your futures are complicit. I'm not even going to go there. Cuba, Haiti, the Haitians who have contributed so much to this country, who came here, and they're going to deport them to a country in chaos. Nicaragua and Venezuela. In addition to the 500 migrants that are here on TPS visas, another 350,000 Venezuelans have lost their status in another case. On top of this, he's revoked the education visas for foreign students, and particularly targeted those students from China. And international students make up about 11 to 15% of all students attending American colleges and universities. Many of those students stay in America and have created jobs, businesses. And it's just, this is an unconscionable attack on our intellectual property, on our ability to grow as a nation in terms of cutting edge technology, science, research. And we're just sending that talent somewhere else. I am so angry when I think about the mass deportation of Haitians, and how the Haitian community was targeted by false rumors about people in the program abducting pets, and that Trump said during his campaign. People thought it was a joke and it was funny. It's not funny that these folks are going to be sent back into the chaos that is currently going on in Haiti. This is really a historic retribution that's going on. But again, cruelty is the point of this administration. So this administration filed an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court after a judge in Boston blocked their efforts to end the program just any kind of way. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote the dissent for this, and the dissent for this is where the three women who were appointed by Democratic presidents. Justice Brown Jackson stated that the effect of the court's order is to have the lives of 500,000 migrants unravel all around us before the courts decide their legal claims. How does that make sense? Justice Jackson echoed what U.S. District Court Judge Indira Tawani wrote in a ruling that ending the legal protections early would leave these people with a stark choice. This is the only choice they are left with right now. Flee the country or risk losing everything. And the ironic thing is that the Supreme Court's order is not a final ruling, but it means the protections will not be in place while the case proceeds. So if you stay here and you get caught in a raid, you have no protection. If you risk staying here and it goes through the legal process and the Supreme Court's ruling in your favor, you're okay. But in the meantime, you could end up, what, in a prison in El Salvador or South Sudan? This is outrageous. But, every vote counts. And even if you, and especially those of you who chose not to vote because it didn't matter, it matters to this 1 million migrants who you washed your hands of. The administration argues that the protections were always meant to be temporary, but they were meant to be temporary until the crisis passed. And none of these countries has the crisis passed. The Department of Homeland Security now has the power to revoke them without court interference. Beneficiaries of the TPS include 523,000 people who came to the United States with financial sponsors leaving home countries fraught with instability, dangers, and deprivations. They had to fly to the U.S. at their own expense and have a financial sponsor to qualify for the designation, which lasts for 2 years. The Trump administration's decision was the first ever mass revocation of humanitarian parole ever. They called the Trump administration's move the largest mass illegalization event in modern American history. The case is the latest in a string of emergency appeals the administration has made, many of them related to immigration. The court has sided against Trump in other cases, including slowing down his efforts to swiftly deport Venezuelans accused of being gang members to a prison in El Salvador under the Alien Enemies Act, which means, folks, that we could see great damage done to our immigrant neighbors and friends. They could flee the country, save themselves and their families from torture and imprisonment in El Salvador and the South Sudan prison, but take their families back to a country in chaos, where there's famine everywhere, where there's fighting. I'm going to try, and y'all forgive me for not having my nails done. That looked ugly, but it's too bad. I'm going to try to have some immigration attorneys and advocates on my next podcast. This happened too quick for me to even make a phone call. I was literally preparing for the show when the ruling came out. This is currently available. I am so fearful. I'm so fearful for Haitian communities across our country, where cities and towns invited them to come and help them revitalize their communities. And now these same communities have targets on their backs. I'm just very distraught. But cruelty, inhumanity, injustice is the hallmark of this administration. And I want you to think about this. This administration is not only sending people into areas that are under attack, that are in famine, in chaos, unstable governments, you name it. But it's also, at the same time, cutting off aid to feed the hungry, right? I'm going to talk about, now I'm going to switch, because I think this is a natural switch, to talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And what I've got to say is, it ain't pretty. It ain't pretty. Okay. And I'm going to talk to you about this bill. As a Christian and as a person who believes in the word of the Lord. And I'm going to quote some scripture to you, and then we're going to go through this bill from that perspective. They also will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you? He will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. That is going to be God's response to Christians in America who support this current administration. On May 22nd, the House of Representatives passed the alleged One Big Beautiful Bill Act. I want y'all to know what this bill does. This bill provides $1.5 trillion in tax breaks for the top 5% of taxpayers at the expense of the bottom 10% of Americans. In other words, the least of these. And y'all know I believe in doing the math. And we've talked about this in previous episodes. There is an almost exact 1-to-1 correlation between cuts to programs benefiting the poor and the most vulnerable Americans and tax breaks for the ultra-rich. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the same office that works for Congress. So they did this and they knew they were doing this. This budget includes $698 billion in cuts to Medicaid. $698 billion in cuts to Medicaid. And and $267 billion to the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP, or as we used to say back in the day, food stamps. So they are literally taking money out the mouths of children, taking food out the hands of children, leaving our elderly, our sick, our disabled outside of the medical system. To do what? Give Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos money that they don't need, that they spend in a day. And that's okay. Elon Musk spent more money. And we're not even talking about all the cuts to domestic programs, to USAID, and to other folks. It's just, I'm just outraged. I can't even tell you. You know, as a Christian, I've always use the parable of the sheep and the goats as one of the check marks of how I should behave as a Christian. It's one of several tests that I think about when I'm trying to make sure I'm doing the right thing. In our nation, as we approach its 250th birthday, though it has been imperfect, really imperfect, in reaching its ideals to be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, though it has failed in that effort, it has always strived to do better. And it has moved forward, and the grades are getting higher and higher until now. This bill is passed by one vote. 215 to 214. And what that means to me is that we still have a chance to stop it from becoming law. We need to, at this time, I'm asking everybody, just do something, right? We're going to do justice. I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you to do justice and to contact your U.S. senators and plead with them to vote against this bill, and honestly, to save our nation from eternal damnation. This bill is just, I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you how dangerous this bill is. When I was hungry, did you feed me? This bill takes food off the table of 50% of the children in our country. I am not exaggerating. Nearly 50% of the children in our country are on food stamps. 11 million people are at risk of losing benefits. The people who are going to lose those benefits include older adults, the parents and grandparents and their children, people I'm talking about. It's cutting off benefits to veterans and to military families because we don't pay our soldiers enough to be able to feed their children without receiving SNAP benefits. I want y'all to think about that. And if what he was doing was bad enough, stealing from our children, stealing from our elders, stealing from our veterans, stealing from our current military troops to give Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos tax breaks that don't even amount to pocket change for them. but is real change for people. It's one thing, not really, but it's one thing to weigh programs. We need money for this program versus money for that program, and making hard choices. But this is not that choice. This is giving money to the ultra rich, giveaway money to the ultra rich, who anyway are not paying their fair share. So this is like putting money in their pocket because they don't pay taxes. They use every leap. You and I pay more of our income in taxes than they do. This is bonus money to them. And we're going to give them, we're going to consciously make the choice. Consciously make the choice as a nation to take money from the sick and the poor to the wealthy. Make that make sense to me. Because the debt on the other end of that, who's going to end up paying that debt to give them this money? Our children. So you're going to steal food from them, leave them without health care, and then, I mean, is that not slavery? Is that not indentured servitude? We're indentering future generations for Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos? There's not a rational reason you can give me that make sense. And if you can, I urge you to do it. I urge you to do it. Put a comment in the comment sections. I urge you to do it. Because it makes absolutely no sense. There is no justification for people we elect to vote to indenture our future generations. I'm just, oh, man, this budget. When I was thirsty, did you give me drink? What this bill does to clean water quality is a travesty. It's a travesty, people. It's a travesty. It takes away environmental rules that would, money is taken away from the lead elimination. So lead in our water, there is not one safe amount of lead that can be in your water supply. But all the funding to EPA, all the funding in the Department of Health and Human Services related to the elimination of lead and PFAS, forever chemicals in our water supply, the testing of all that eliminated. And the removal of lead poisoning is completely preventable. Completely preventable. And this administration is giving a pass to municipalities to, like, oh, Poison your people, it's okay. Create generations of children who will not reach their capacity because of the lead in the water, that's okay. Don't test your water. Don't screen your water for forever chemicals. That's okay. Oh, let's remove all barriers to hog farms and other industrial waste. Just go ahead, dump that water into our streams. That's okay. Because that's what's in the budget. That's what's in the budget. When I was a stranger, did you take me in? We've already talked about in this episode, we've already talked about what's going on with the deportation of so many of our brothers and sisters. Whatever happened to give me your tired and your poor yearning to be free? Whatever happened to that America? We're not only damaging our folks here in America, we're no longer a place of refuge and safety for the world. But on top of that, we have lost our humanity. We cut off funding to feed those starving people across the world. And the money, I want people to understand that the money actually isn't like we're sending these billions of dollars to Gaza or Afghanistan or Pakistan or all these places in the world that are suffering from starvation. It's not like we're sending them money. We're paying our own farmers for the grain. We're paying our own shipyard workers and granary workers to load the ships with the grain from our farmers. We're paying our longshoremen. We're paying our ships and our ports to ship the grain to feed the poor and feed the hungry and feed the starving across the world. So the money stays here, but the charity, the humanity goes across the globe. We're cutting that off. We don't need that. We don't need other people. We don't need goodwill. Right now, I got notice that the humanitarian aid to feed the folks in Gaza again is backlogged and not available. There are folks in Somalia, South Sudan. These are immediate humanitarian crises. We have the food. is sitting on boats, rotting, rather than feed these children. You had allowed that regime to commit genocide openly and proudly. The current Israeli regime has openly and proudly said it really isn't about getting the hostages home. It's about destroying the Palestinians. Openly said that. If you think I'm lying, look it up. That's what Google and Bing is for. And that's okay. Intentionally starving a country full of people, that's okay. Our nation is in peril. Our nation is in peril, people. This bill is bad. When I was sick, this bill I'm going to look and see the number. I don't know. I'm here by myself, so I don't know that if when I go to check my sources, if you see me, but hear me, okay? Hear me, because it's critically important. The things I'm about to say. Do you know, getting back to the aid we provided around the world, that one program, Food for Peace program, has fed 4 billion with a B people. 4 billion with a B people in 150 countries since it started. Last year alone, 1.1 million metric tons of food from farmers and ranchers in the United States helped feed more than 45 million people in 35 countries. Our farmers, our ranchers, they are doing their part to feed the world. Food assistance globally, creating a more secure world while benefiting our country. If this one big beautiful bill is passed, 4.2 billion will be slashed from this program, leaving millions and millions of people at risk because of conflict, drought, and economic instability. Oh. And if that were all the damage to the world and to our souls that was being done, it would be cruel enough. But the cruelest and most ungodly provisions of the Big Beautiful Bill Act are those related to health care. The bill slashes $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid over the next decade, leaving 10.3 million people without Medicaid coverage. And of that number, 7.6 million would become uninsured. And on top of that, another 5.1 million people will become uninsured because Congress is refusing to extend the tax credits in the Affordable Care Act that help pay for the premiums. So, one, you have to be low income to qualify for the marketplace, and it requires you to purchase it. But they're going to take away the tax credits, making it so that these people who work every day can't get buy into the marketplace. It eliminates and get this, it eliminates provider taxes, which the states use to fund Medicaid. Okay, so not only are we going to take money from the not only are we going to take money from the poor to give to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, we're also going to say, hey, you all don't even have to pay taxes, pay fees to insure your workers. It's a small fee that providers do when you go to the it's and I don't even understand. It ain't pretty. I don't know why they call it a big beautiful bill. It ain't pretty. So by eliminating this tax that the states rely on to pay their fair share of the Medicaid, and we're not even going to talk about how they're shifting the cost onto the states. That's another, I don't even have enough time in this episode for that. But these cuts are gonna and will result in reduced payments to hospitals and doctors. It's already leading to staff layoffs, and longer wait times. One of my favorite nurses, y'all know I have cancer. One of my favorite nurses is saying she's having to go to part-time work. She won't be working as often because of some of the cuts. She's at a university hospital, one of the universities that are being targeted by this administration, and the funding is going to close the few rural hospitals that remain. They're going to be left without emergency care or specialist services, forcing patients to drive distances over 50 miles for emergency care. It includes 40% reductions to NIH and over $1 billion in cuts to the National Cancer Institute, threatening cancer research, clinical trials, which I am in. A clinical trial is saving my life. Early detection efforts. The bill includes cuts to FDA funding for drug and vaccine programs. It reduces CDC funding for infectious disease research. I saw in my feed yesterday that this person had gone to the doctor and had a really, really bad respiratory infection. And it came back, it's not RSV, it's not COVID, it's not pneumonia, it's not the flu. And the doctor said, I think it's a new virus and we don't know much about it. Without the CDC, without NIH, new viruses and variants can be cropping up, and we won't know about it because there's no detection system anymore. The bird flu is threatening to spread, and we are not tracking it anymore. When I was sick, did you comfort me? There is nothing pretty about this big, beautiful bill. There are no redeeming qualities to these choices. There is no justification for making permanent tax cuts that will add $4.2 trillion to the deficit over the next 2 years. See, also in there is a provision to raise the cap, the spending cap, the deficit cap by $2.3 million a year. So you're raising the debt ceiling by $2.3 billion trillion a year for the next 2 years because you know how bad this bill is. And who's going to pay it back? We're borrowing money to give to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, and you're asking my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to pay it back? What sense does that make? This is an unnecessary transfer of wealth from the poorest Americans to the ultra-rich. This is an angry thing today, okay? Supreme Court letting so many of our migrant brothers and sisters who came here out of desperation, but when they got here, had worked hard, had paid into our tax system without benefit coming back to them, have maintained the economies of local communities where they live. We're asked to come and support local communities in our Midwest. These are the people who feed us. They work in the fields and harvest our food that we eat. And this is not, the scheme of this is to criminalize normal activities of Americans and then put them and sell them out to corporate farms as laborers. We're going back to chain gangs, people. That's their intent. They want to deprive our children of an education. They want to dumb it down so they can have a captive workforce, not an innovative workforce, not the one that's created, not a workforce capable of creating the greatest economy on the planet. No. They want to indenture our children. They want to indenture and enslave hundreds of thousands of our migrants by making them illegal. There are states that are talking about life sentences if you're caught being undocumented in their states. I'm not making this up. We got to stop this. Stop it right now. We have the chance. We have the chance. Contact your senators. Contact them today and tell them to vote no on this big, ugly bill. Have them vote no on this big, ugly bill. I'm going to try to get some advocates for the immigrant communities. I'm going to try to find representatives from the 4 targeted communities to come and talk about it, what's going on, and how they're fighting for folks. I'm going to try to have representatives from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela come and talk with us next week. If you are listening and you are part of those communities, please inbox me and contact me to participate. I want to hear from impacted people and communities and what's going on. I do want to give a Target update before I leave. And we are making a difference, and we need to keep making a difference. So, folks, last week Target did their outreach to their quarterly report. This is their slides. I'm not making this up. They were down 3.8% compared to last year. They were down 5.7% in comparable sales. Now, their digital sales went up, but they didn't have a large digital presence, so I'm not sure about that. This $1.30 premium they paid to their dividend that they got was 35 cents below expectation. He didn't say it here, but he said that it was a combination of things that had brought them down. But I want you all to see this. These are the slides that he presented at his quarterly report. Aren't they diverse and inclusive? Look at this. Look at this. Aunt Kim look at all the diversity and inclusion in these digital circles. They're going down, people. They've been downgraded by several sources. The boycott is working. Keep it going. We don't need to spend our money there. There are plenty of other places we can spend our money. Dr. Jamal Bryant, Pastor Jamal Bryant, was on the air earlier this week to announce a new form of economic pressure on Dollar General. Now, he is not calling for a boycott of Dollar General because in many communities, they're the only place you can get fresh produce. But he is, and I'm going to see if I can find it. Calling for some new tactics in letting them know, using a social media campaign and some other things. And I'm pulling it up now. So Dr. Bryant is going after them, and he wants us to flood the retail chain's email and phone lines with and social media. He wants us to email Dollar General, call on their helplines, and flood them with demands to reinstate DEI initiatives. He wants us to shut them down and shut down all their stuff in terms of emails, flood their emails and their phone lines with requests to strengthen DEI programs. And I'm trying to see if there's a day to do that, but it sounds like he just wants us to be unrelenting in doing that. And the reason he's not calling for a boycott is because in many places, the only place you can get fresh food is at a Dollar General, because Dollar General is in a number of rural communities in food deserts. And so he's wanting us to show our disappointment without damaging the health. See, this is what I'm talking about. We still have to protest the inequity, but we're not doing it. We're not doing protests at the expense of people. We understand that in these rural Black communities, Dollar General is where you get your eggs, your milk, and other subtle supplies. We understand that. And we're not asking people to sacrifice their health and their access to fresh vegetables and food. But we do want to recognize the injustice being done, the exploitation of the very people who you exploit. You are the only place they can go. And so you think you can treat them any kind of way. That's going to stop America. No more on the backs of the poor and the rural people of this country. We're standing up for ourselves. And we'll make a way out of no way. But one way we can stand up for ourselves is to demand that the people we elect serve us. That's it for this week's edition of Doing Justice Brings Joy. And I do have joy because I know that my friends are fighting the good fight. And when we fight, we win. This is my shout out as I go out. My shout out to the law firm Relman Dane, who over the last 2 weeks has had victory after victory after victory in the civil rights arena. This is my shout out to Common Cause North Carolina, to the North Carolina NAACP, to all of the democracy advocates, to all of the people of North Carolina who stood firm to ensure that the election of Associate Justice Allison Riggs, the people's choice, got to sit on that bench. We're still fighting, and that brings me joy. I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching this week's edition of Doing Justice Brings Joy.